Prevention of Significant Deterioration, PSD permit, and the associated environmental assessment statement, EAS, for Venture Global CP2 LNG LLC, CP2 LNG Terminal Agency Interest Number 232172. Permit numbers 0560-00998 VO and PSDLA 847, and activity tracking numbers PER 2022-0001 and PER 2022-0002. The facility is located south of Cameron on the east side of the Calcasieu River Ship Channel in Cameron Parish. Venture Global CP2 LNG LLC requested a Part 70 air operating permit and PSD permit to construct and operate the CP2 LNG terminal to liquefy natural gas for export. The facility will consist of 36 liquefaction units with a total nameplate capacity of 20 million tons of liquefied natural gas, LNG, per year. Feed gas will be pre-treated and liquefied using refrigeration compressors, which will be driven by electric motors. LNG will be temporarily stored and then loaded onto marine LNG carriers. Acid gases will be combusted in the terminal oxidizers, while vent gases and purge gases will be flared. Turn off your phone, please. Electricity will be provided by a 1,470 megawatt power generation system, PM10/PM 2.5 SO2 NOx CO, VOC, and greenhouse gas GHG emissions from the facility will be more than the PSD major source thresholds. These emissions were reviewed under PSD regulations and documented in permit PSD LA 847. The proposed emissions will be controlled by BACT. Neither the project nor the general commercial, residential, industrial, or other growth associated with it is expected to have significant adverse impact on soil, vegetation, visibility, or air quality in the area of the facility or any Class 1 area. Increment consumptions of PM 2.5, 24-hour and annual average, SO2, 3-hour and 24-hour average, and NO2 annual will be 5.04 UG-M3, 0.7 UG-M3, 9.9 UG-M3, 38.2 UG-M3, and 3.7 UG-M3 respectively, which are less than the allowable Class 2 PSD increments of 9 UG-M3, 4 UG-M3, 5.12 UG-M3, 9.1 UG-M3, and 22.5 UG-M3. The EAS submitted by the applicant addresses avoidance of potential and real environmental effects, balancing of social and economic benefits against the environmental impact cost, and alternative sites, projects, and mitigation measures. This permit was processed as an expedited permit in accordance with LAC 33-1, Chapter 18. This hearing is not being conducted in a question and answer format. I repeat, this hearing is not being conducted in a question and answer format. Please remember the purpose of this public hearing is for LDEQ to receive your comments concerning the proposed permits and EAS. Also, please be aware that the hearing officer and the staff from the public participation group are not decision makers on these proposed permits. My role as the hearing officer is to conduct this public hearing and to accept comments regarding the proposed permits and EAS for LDEQ. This hearing is to provide individuals a chance to be heard regardless of their position on proposed permits and EAS. Courteous behavior is expected of everyone at all times. You may speak in support of the proposed project, in opposition to the proposed project, or simply to provide additional information. All interested parties will be given a reasonable opportunity to comment unless the testimony is not related to the purpose of the hearing. All comments heard and transcribed during this hearing and all written comments received during the comment period will be evaluated and addressed in the LDEQ's written response to public comments. A public notice advertising this public hearing and request for public comment on the proposed permits and EAS was published on the LDEQ public notice webpage on Friday, January 31st, 2025. Copies of the proposed permits and EAS are available for inspection and review at the LDEQ Public Record Center, 602 North 5th Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Viewing hours are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, except holidays. Additional copies are available for review at the Cameron Library headquarters, 512 Marshall Street, Cameron, Louisiana. The available information can also be accessed electronically on the Electronic Data Management System, EDMS, on the LDEQ public website at www.deq.louisiana.gov. In addition, on Thursday, January 30th, 2025, copies of the public notice were mailed and emailed to the individuals who have requested to be placed on the hard copy and email mailing list maintained by the LDEQ Office of Environmental Services. In accordance with the Louisiana Administrative Code LAC, Title 33, Part 3, Section 531.A.3.C, comments received by 4:30 p.m. Friday, March 7th, 2025 will be considered timely received comments. All comments heard and transcribed during this hearing and all timely received comments shall be retained by the LDEQ and considered prior to reaching a final decision. Written comments may be submitted online on the public notice webpage, www.deq.louisiana.gov/public-notices, mailed to LDEQ Public Participation Group, P.O. Box 4313, Baton Rouge, Louisiana 70821, or submitted via personal delivery or email at deqpublicnotices@la.gov. Pursuant to the Louisiana Revised Statutes 30:2050.23A2, notice of final decision must be given to the commenters by ordinary mail. Therefore, commenters wishing to receive notice of the final decision must include a complete mailing address when submitting comments. Notice of the final decision will be mailed to those who have made timely comments and provided a complete mailing address to those who request to be notified of the final decision and to the applicant. Louisiana Revised Statutes 30:2017 excuse me, requires that DEQ proceed with the following speaking order. Speaking order is determined based on the information provided on your public speaker registration form and is based on the parish of residence, parish of employment, or at the discretion of the hearing officer, whether the speaker is a public official. If you did not provide your residence or work information on the speaker registration form, you will be able to speak. However, you will speak last. The department shall provide 30 minutes for the applicant to make an introductory presentation. Afterwards, preference for speaking up to 1 hour is given as follows. First, up to 1 hour for those citizens who live within a 2-mile radius of the location of the project. Second, up to 1 hour for those citizens who work within a 2-mile radius of the location of the project. Third, up to an hour to those citizens who live within the parish of the location of the proposed project. Thereafter, each hour of the hearing shall alternate between those who are in support of the proposed permits and EAS and those who are opposed. Pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statutes 30:2017B3, the hearing officer may give a preference to a public official to speak at any time during the hearing. However, any time limit set for the citizens shall also apply to public officials. The initial time limit of 5 minutes will be provided for each speaker. However, if you need additional time, you may speak again once everyone has had the opportunity to speak and provide comments. This hearing will remain open for a minimum of 1 hour to allow any late arriving people an opportunity to speak. This hearing is being transcribed, therefore I will ask each speaker to begin by stating for the record their name, address, and any organization he or she may represent. I would like to remind you to please silence your cell phones. Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask the applicant's representative to come forward if they want to make a presentation. You still don't want to? Correct. Yeah. Still waive that. Okay, just checking. Okay. The applicant's representative has opted not to make an introductory presentation. Any public officials? Okay, first to speak will be those citizens who live within a 2-mile radius of the location of the project. John Allaire?
Thank you. My name is John Allaire. I live at 621 Gulf Beach Highway, Holly Beach, Louisiana. My property is about 1 mile, almost exactly, from the Venture Global loading docks. And I've been a witness to their operations of the CP1 project, and I'm speaking in opposition at this time to the CP2 project. I look at I have to live, like I said, with Venture Global. I get to see their constant flaring. I get to record it. I have something I want to turn in as a document here. This is 6 months of what I see on a day-to-day basis. It's hundreds of photographs from my patio, and I see the significant adverse impacts on the visibility and the air quality at my site. The state has taken note of the operations of the CP1 facility. It's been in operation since January of 2022. In June 29th of 2023, the state issued a consolidated compliance order and notice of proposed penalty in enforcement to Venture Global CP1. It's a 46-page document. It was supposed to be resolved by Venture Global between them and the state within a month of the filing, and here we are 21 months later, and today the state just gave Venture Global another 120-day extension. So Venture Global is contesting their violations. In 2022, in the 11 months they were operating, they had over 2,000 air permit violations at their site. So I think it's incumbent on the DEQ, before we authorize them to triple the size of the existing facility, which according to them is not even completely commissioned yet, that they resolve this notice of compliance and get the proposed penalty out there, because this has basically been going on for 21 months, and none of it's in the public record other than they had a meeting, and but the public hasn't been able to respond to it or even see what's going on in these private negotiations. And to talk more about their compliance history, 13 days ago, the CP1 facility had reported a liquefied natural gas spill to soil during an emergency shutdown at the facility. That was on the 21st of February. The follow-up reports state that, yeah, we initially they said we spilled it to the soil during the shutdown. We don't know how the shutdown happened. And then they came back and said, well, we're not sure if we spilled any or not, but we don't know how much we spilled. And then on the follow-up, they say, well, we didn't spill any, and the environment wasn't affected. Well, if they released natural gas, methane, to the environment, then it was released, and they're saying there wasn't a release now. So they don't know how it happened. They don't know how much it was. I'm not sure they know exactly what they're doing over there. So, and then, you know, Venture Global promised us X number of emissions with their first permit, and then they came back a few months after they began operating, and they asked, well, we need to increase what we promised you in our environmental impact assessment. We said we need to increase our particulate matters by 17%, SO2 by 3%, NOx by 20%, CO by 32%, VOCs and hazardous air pollutants and toxic air pollutants by 132%, CO2 by 17%, and a whole range of others. We want to increase our flaring from 60 hours a year to 500 hours a year, an 833% increase. So I don't know how we can ask Venture Global how the state can authorize this until we resolve several of these issues that are out there right now. Thank you for your time.
Sir, if you could give your receipt to this young man with the hat.
Yep.
Oh, well,
Pardon?
if you don't mind, I'm sorry, I directed you to the wrong person.
All right. Let me go over this way.
I wrote it down, and I had to leave that stick for it. One. Mark that as Ms. Hilaire is exhibit 1. All right. Now the next group to speak will be the citizens who work within a 2-mile radius of the facility. Sorry. Next, it will be the people who work within the 2-mile radius of the facility. First person on this, my list is Susan Boudreau.
Welcome, LDEQ. I'm Susan Boudreau of 175 Barrow Road, Creel. My husband's here from here in Cameron. I work for the Cameron Parish School Board, and it says for me to say who I am first.
Yes,
Besides-
your name and your address, please.
Okay, I represent the Tourist Commission and the local Beach Board District 2 also. I am here today to recommend issuing the Venture Global CP2 LNG proposal initial Port 70 air operating permit and PSD permit number 0560000998V0 and PSD LA 847. Emissions is what this permit is all about, and this industry is highly regulated throughout all scopes of the project. I know CP2 will be committed to protecting the environment and will work to minimize impacts during all phases of the liquefaction process. Air quality is just as important to them and their employees, while the environment is also crucial to our local commercial fishermen and sport fishermen, hunters of all species, and the beef cattle farmers. I understand this regulatory agency is here to protect us and to regulate climate change. While we have, after years past, record land and ocean temperatures, we have also just went through Southwest Louisiana's first blizzard, and would record snowfall and low temperatures. Venture Global, Calcasieu Pass to date, has been an outstanding industrial business development partner and neighbor in our community. They have been our savior, providing permanent and temporary construction jobs to Southwest Louisiana and our neighboring Texas. They also have provided an adequate level of support to our community organizations and higher education. I am a local citizen that really lives here and works here. I'm employed by the local government agency that has received support from the Venture Global. I'm a commissioner of the Cameron Parish Tourist Board and the Beachfront Development District 2. My family has properties that are being utilized in the CP2 construction project. Once again, I am here to recommend issuing the permit for CP2. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Travis Dardar.
I guess I should have said that on my thing. Travis Stark. Give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Travis Dordor. I would prefer not to give my address because I used to live here, and I don't want this industry knowing where I live, if that's okay.
Sure.
We are here to discuss whether to give Venture Global their permit or not. I really don't understand why. Seems to me like your mind's already made up before we even walk through the doors. The answer should be hell no, because we've seen the destruction this one has caused. For all the ones that call me crazy and a liar, Venture Global is clean energy and will not harm the fishermen. Now I'll give you some facts. Trip tickets from Wildlife and Fisheries don't lie, and it shows a drastic decrease in the catch from before CP1 was built until now. So calling me a liar would also be calling the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries and all the rest of the fishermen liars. The fishermen all along the coast of Louisiana have caught records amount of shrimp the last few years, everywhere but Cameron. It's stated in CP1 permits that it would have a temporary impact on fisheries. How could they possibly know that? LNG plants have been built, but never on the coast like this, and never on fishing grounds like this one. The damage is permanent. The shrimping in Cameron has only gotten worse and worse since CP1 was built, and mark my words, this year will be even worse than last year. We were an experiment because this has never been done on the coast. So crazy, maybe, but I'm still not crazy enough to give Venture Global another permit. In no way, shape, or form could any fisherman coexist with Venture Global, yet alone CP1, CP2, Commonwealth, Hackberry LNG, and now I hear about Delphin, a plant on the water off of the coast of Cameron. This is all blood money. Do us a solid for once, deny this permit and tell Venture Global to compensate the fishermen for all they lost, because the damage is permanent, not temporary, and it's only getting worse as time goes by. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Solomon Williams Jr. Please give your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Solomon Williams Jr., and I'm speaking on behalf of me and my parents, 193 LaSalle Road, Cameron, Louisiana. And I want to let you know that I oppose to any more permits for them to let out any more flares, anything. Let me go back to when Cameron used to be Cameron. Everybody sit here and talk about what Venture Global is and ain't doing, but when the poker plants was here and they was talking about how bad the smells was and how bad the stuff is, but you got rid of them. Now you're gonna let Venture Global come in and promise you this and promise you that, and then now the hit is up here again talking about letting more stuff out. I'm just opposing that.
I don't think y'all should let it go on, but this is Cameron. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we will move to those folks who live in the parish. Joe Duvall. Please give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Joe Duvall. I live at 311 Gulfway Drive in Hackberry, Louisiana. Been a resident of this parish for a lifetime. Now that I'm retired, I'm an avid hunter and fisherman, and I would just want to be here today to show my support for Venture Global. They have improved this parish a great deal. They have helped us through our hardest times, and I'd just like to say that I'm here in support of them.
Thank you, sir. James Dokie?
That'll work, Doxy.
Doxy, I couldn't tell couldn't tell if that was a C or a K in there.
I've been called worse.
Oh, well.
James Doxy, 871 Oak Grove Highway. And I'm here to say that I am in favor of the CP2 project. My son, all his friends, my nephews, they all work out there. And back in '05, when Rita was hit, from the Y to Cameron, I had 1,700 in my voting district. I was a police jury. Rita wiped it out. I came a few years later, wiped a few more that was in, that wiped them out. They left. When Laura came, we had the CP1 was billing. And I'm on the Jeff Davis board, and we're putting a new 230 line in here, which CP2 is gonna buy electricity from us. And if it wouldn't be for CP2 being here now, what left for the Rita, this town would be over with. There wouldn't even be no reason to put electricity here. So I am here to say that I am in favor for the CP2 project.
Thank you, sir. Kim Monty?
Kim Monte, 9988 Broussard Road. I'm affiliated with the Cameron Parish Port and as a resident of the parish. I've been a Cameron Parish resident for 32 years, raised 3 children here, and have worked within the parish for the last 20 years. I have read the arduous 675-page July 28, 2023 final environmental impact statement for Venture Global CP2 LNG facility, as well as the 31-page February 2025 draft supplement environmental impact statement. The 2023 final EIS concluded that the construction and operation of the project would result in limited adverse environmental impacts, except for significant impacts on visual. It also concluded that the results from the significant impact analysis and the cumulative national ambient air quality standards impact analysis for the project would not cause or contribute to an exceedance of the national ambient air quality standards, which were established to be protective of human health, including sensitive populations such as children, the elderly, and those with compromised respiratory function like asthmatics. They further conducted a human health risk assessment in order to estimate chronic long-term cancer risk and non-cancer hazard, as well as acute short-term cancer hazard via inhalation of hazardous air pollutant compounds potentially emitted from stationary and mobile marine sources at the CP2 Marine Terminal facility. The results from the HHRA indicated that the estimated cancer and non-cancer risk for communities near the CP2 LNG facilities would be below EPA's risk management objectives. The 2025 draft supplemental EIS concluded that the emissions impacts, including the 1-hour nitrogen dioxide and annual particulate matter 2.5 impacts from the Moss Lake compressor station and the CP2 LNG terminal, when combined with past, present, and reasonably foreseeable emissions within the regional air environment, are not significant. The conclusion was that there would be no significant cumulative air quality impacts. It is for these reasons that I can personally fully support, and the Cameron Parish Port Board, for which I am the executive director, can fully support the construction and operation of the CP2 LNG facility, along with the CP2 Express Pipeline and Moss Lake Compressor Station projects. It is projects like these that will get Cameron Parish's economy up and thriving once again, so that my children and grandchildren will be able to live and work in Cameron Parish, and I won't be visiting them in another state.
Thank you very much. Stephanie Rodriguez.
Stephanie Rodriguez, 5520 West Creole Highway, Cameron, Louisiana. I'm addressing the Department of Environmental Quality in favor of the initial Part 70 Air Operating Permit for CP2. As a resident taxpayer, forward progression of the construction as well as completion of the final project is vital to both our economy and quality of life. Venture Global LNG's Calcasieu Pass is not only an excellent neighbor, but a company who has revitalized a community that has taken on the wrath of multiple disasters that spurred an exodus of not only residents, but of critical resources as well. During the construction phase of Calcasieu Pass, we welcomed thousands of workers who filled long-term RV parks, stopped at food establishments and stores, filled their vehicles with fuel, attended church services, and supported charitable and community endeavors. Once the plant was operational, we saw many employees become permanent staff to the plant and its vendors. Employees who were earning wages that provide for many extras for themselves and their families. Most importantly, Calcasieu Pass provides an opportunity for men and women to remain in Cameron Parish and earn an excellent wage. The years of little opportunity of competitive employment are now behind us. With the positive experiences of the first phase of construction, there is a healthy wave of excitement and anticipation of CP2, as business owners are more knowledgeable of procurement processes and what goods and services will be required. For our residents, much of that equals to more services and resources that could not otherwise have come to fruition. Equally notable is the generosity of Venture Global LNG to not only our communities, but much of Southwest Louisiana. That generosity includes, but is certainly not limited to, extensive support of our educational system, reinternments of human remains disinterred by the force of the Gulf of America, school and community athletics, cleaning and enhancing our beaches, providing a lovely waterfront restaurant, RV resort, boat launch, fishing pier, and marina, supporting festivals that in turn support community needs, supporting community holiday activities, feeding the hungry, supporting resources for families with special needs children. The list goes on. With the liquefied natural gas pause now behind us, I urge DEQ to confirm the path forward for Venture Global LNG CP2 project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let's see. At this time, I'd like to call those citizens who are in support of the proposed permits and EAS, followed by those who are opposed. The first on the list for supporters is Joey Gosha.
That's it.
I pronounced it right. I didn't mess it up like
Did great.
Mr. Duncan.
I think you got to practice on at the Air Products.
Yes.
So, yeah, Joey Gosha from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 10231 the Grove Boulevard. And from 2014 to 2019, I had the pleasure of leading the civil installation of the Sasol project here in Lake Charles. And as that project came to an end, quite a few other projects came to an end, but I'd made many long-lasting relationships in the community. And the one common thing that I hear from the community, that I don't live in the community any longer, but I still have many people that do, is that the community needs CP2 and opportunities here for their people again, like we presented back at the time CP1 was being built and Sasol was being built. So obviously I'm strongly for it. I stand a lot to gain by having this built, and many of my friends from Lake Charles can work with me again, and I'd enjoy that very much. So I'm for it.
Thank you so much.
Patrick Abear.
Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer. My name's Patrick Abear. I live at 9170 Robinson Road in Bell City, Louisiana. I was born and raised here. I went to Cameron Elementary about a block away, then South Cameron. My mom still lives about a mile down the road. I'm a contractor. I've got about 90 people working for me. 80 of them are from the lower part of this parish. We've worked with Venture since 2019 when they first came in. They're a good company to work for. Safety's first. It ranks way ahead of production or cost. We're always in a good spot when we work for them. I'm very much in favor of supporting them on this next endeavor. Our parish needs this. Our fire department in Creole operates on about a $30,000 a year annual budget. It's not even enough to pay for tires and fuel in their vehicles, and any kind of economic development we can have here now is super important to us. We need the tax revenue, we need the development. I guess there's probably maybe more than 200 permanent jobs at CP1. They're all high quality, good paying jobs where people can come back and live here, raise a family, send their kids to whatever school they want to, go on vacation and live a good quality life. Not to mention the thousands of jobs that'll come in temporarily for the construction phase of the project. Again, any type of economic development we can have now is really important to us. You just drive down the docks in Cameron and you'll see that, we don't have anything left. All the businesses are gone. So again, I'm a local contractor and I'm here to support Venture and urge you to allow them to have this permit and move forward with the development of their next phase. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Captain Brett Palmer.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having here. And I think I might have screwed up when I filled that out because I actually live in Lake Charles, Louisiana. My name is Captain Brett Palmer. I represent the Lake Charles pilots. I've been engaged initially for Venture Global since 2014. I'm in charge of mitigation of all the ship traffic. And even though I live in Lake Charles, I actually do part owners and property at 477 Monkey Island Road, which is actually right adjacent to the CP2 project. And I know that the LNG companies like Venture Global, Driftwood, Cameron LNG are increasing investments in carbon capture technologies to address concerns with investors, local communities to reduce the negative impact of CO2 to our local environment. But the big picture is bigger than that. It's global. When we talk about global warming, companies here in Southwest Louisiana can provide affordable energy source to countries like Japan, China, India, Poland, and just to name a few, so that they can reduce their dependency on coal. LNG produces 40% less CO2 than coal. China alone burned 4 billion tons of coal last year alone. That's just hard to envision. And this world needs to change, and it's the best fossil fuel that we have for the energy for the future. Some folks may say that they don't care what happens in China or India or other parts, but that's only 7,500 miles away. As the crow flies, it's right over there. 7,500 miles is not very far, particularly when you talk to my wife and I looked at the mileage on her car that she just produced. go. So yes, my friends in Cameron and Southwest Louisiana support Venture Global, and we hope that that you can expedite any of the permits that they need to continue forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Charlie Adkins.
Good evening, my name is Charlie Atkins. I live at 1332 Jefferson Drive in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm a retired Cameron Parish School Superintendent, and I have a vested interest in Cameron Parish. My father was a petroleum engineer and drilled wells all over Cameron. We lived in Grand Chenier, lived in Hackberry. Now we live up in Lake Charles. We do have property down here that we do pay taxes on, and I'm speaking in favor of Venture Global receiving this permit. As a school superintendent, I'm in favor of any businesses coming to Cameron Parish, especially of the nature of Venture Global, all the LNG facilities, their support of education, their support of our schools, their support of our community. After Laura hit, they all chipped in to help us get back together again. And I'm just asking that you issue this permit to Venture Global for CP2. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we will have those who are opposed to the permit. Michael Tridico. Mr. Tridico? Going, oh.
I appreciate the lady bringing me a chair.
Yes, sir.
I will sit down.
Oh, that's just fine. Do
Well-
we need to adjust the mic for you?
I'll push it down. My name is Michael Tridico. I live at 512 Good Old Road, Longville, Louisiana, 70652. I represent the environmental group Restore, which I founded in 1974. I'm going to go ahead and sit down.
Yes, sir.
The documents on the agenda for tonight were thousands of pages. That doesn't, they weren't the ones that the lady who spoke about the federal documents talked about. These were the ones that DEQ wanted us to review. The primary document was 1,361 pages. When you go through that document, the company had references, many references, to background documents upon which they relied for certain claims and contentions. Go through all those hundreds of pages, which I did, and you get to the last page in the DEQ document, which said that in addition to what was on the EDMS computer system, there were 4 compact discs. Now, I didn't order the compact discs, so I don't know what was on them. The description of what was on them, a one-line thing that said it was additional information. Now, if DEQ expects the public to do sensible comments, having thousands of pages and then 4 compact discs that we don't know really what's in them is not really fair. It's a bias totally in favor of the applicant. But I did go through carefully the 1,361 page primary document, and I'd like to go ahead and turn in a testimony, which, okay.
Sure, we'll mark that as Exhibit 2.
Now,
Mark that as Exhibit 2.
I'm just gonna tell you what those main topics are in that document I just turned in. One chapter is air quality issues. Another chapter is noise issues. Another chapter is fire safety issues. And another chapter, fisheries and wildlife issues. Another chapter is national security issues. Now, each of those issues was addressed in the EAS, the Environmental Assessment Statement. So all of the information that I put in here is on the agenda. It's not just economic development. It's all these other issues. Now, for DEQ to do a full, comprehensive, fair assessment of whether or not to issue this draft permit and turn it into a final permit, you cannot just focus on one thing, economic development, because the law says you can't. The Environmental Quality Act that some of us pushed to get done, 1983, ordered DEQ to do certain things. After that, because DEQ was dragging its feet, I worked with an attorney in Baton Rouge, Steve Irving, and Steve managed to get something called the IT decision. Those 5 questions that the Supreme Court of Louisiana said must be answered, that's what the EAS is about. So everything that is in what I turned in is covered by what's supposed to be on the agenda tonight. One of the things that the Environmental Quality Act mandated 40 years ago, and DEQ hadn't done it yet, and that is to promulgate noise regulations. 40 years we've been waiting, and we trusted when the legislature said, establish a Department of Environmental Quality and make them do this. And we trusted it. 40 years we've been waiting. And this evening at 5 o'clock I got kicked off what I thought was a private road because I was getting my own decibel readings off the fence, past the fence, outside the fence of Venture Global CP1.
Can you hang on, are you gonna be much longer, or you over your 5 minutes, Mr. Tricko?
I'm over the 5 minutes already. Well, I guess I'll come back up here.
Okay, that'd be fine.
May I at least finish telling you about
Sure, you can finish up your thought, certainly.
that one thing about decibels. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission guidance is 55 decibels at the fence line. This evening I measured 62.6. So CP1 is not in compliance with the guidance from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, who relies on the state to do the noise management and regulation, and you haven't. I'll come back up.
All right, we'll call you in just a moment. Thank you, sir. If you want to sit in the front, that might help you trip. All right, Robin Thiepen? I'm sure I butchered that.
It's Robin Thigpen,
Oh,
918
well,
Platt
I was
Street.
gonna say Thigpen because I
That's
bought
okay.
this jacket at Bates and Thigpen.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm here to say that I oppose the air permit, being granted to Venture Global because we are talking about a company who has never operated in compliance, a company that has had over 2,000 self-reported violations
in their first quarter of operations, 2,000 violations. We're talking about a company that to this day has not addressed those 2,000 permit violations or consequences for any of them. We are talking about a company who sent employees to defend them at a previous air modification permit hearing to say that there was more pollution in Louisiana due comical in some ways. We're talking about a company who has never been good neighbors, not to the people who matter here in this community, like the fishermen who have always had a place in sportsman's paradise. Their fishing grounds have been ruined because of Venture Global. We're also talking about a company that sent their own employees here to say that they do fence line air monitoring, which is not true. I've also heard employees say how much they care about the environment, ignoring that they've had over 2,000 self-reported violations on air permit modifications. And the LDEQ does not enforce what the laws are. So to stand up here and say that they know that they're going to be protected by the DEQ and their in FERC and the company is ludicrous. That is not true. It hasn't been true. It's not going to be true as long as our regulatory agencies are not enforcing the laws that are already present. So we oppose it.
Thank you very much. Ann Rolfs.
Thank you. My name is Ann Rolfus. My address is 4731 Canal Street in New Orleans. Thanks for the time tonight. This is an air permit hearing. The law does not say that if you give everybody some money, you can do what you want. And that is in large part a premise that seems to be operating here tonight. In its first year and a half of operations, Venture Global made over $13 billion. So as I've said at previous hearings, whatever money y'all are getting from Vulture Global, you really ought to be getting a whole lot more. You're getting bought off way too cheap. But the subject matter here is what it's doing to the air and to the place that we call home. On January 8th, 2022, the day before Vulture Global began operations, it had a spill of over 180,000 pounds of gas. And that accident really set the scene for the disastrous years that were to follow. Because ever since the day before they even began operations, this company has simply not been able to operate in compliance. If you look at the records, you can see that as one example, they had a boiler problem that came from a faulty design that Venture Global was utterly incapable of taking care of, and they even commented in their reports that they were incapable of fixing it and that they were relying on the manufacturer, and yet what did they do? They kept operating. We were able to get that information from their semi-annual monitoring reports. In general, the company absolutely fails to report. They are required by law to submit what are called 7-day letters when they have a problem that help to get to the root cause of the problem so that they can solve them and not have them anymore. And yet Venture Global routinely fails to submit these 7-day letters. The company not only has an utter contempt for the air and for the people who live nearby and for the fishermen, but it clearly has contempt for the law. If you look at aerial photographs after floods here, what you will see is Venture Global is high and dry because of their wall. But what you will see is that every other place is flooded, and what's obvious is that their wall, which they're so proud of and which they will certainly build around CP2, actually causes a surge elsewhere. So for any commentary about how helpful the company may be, the fact is that they're keeping themselves dry while they make flooding worse for everybody else. We're here to talk about air tonight, and if you spend 5 minutes reading through some of the reports, some of Venture Global's own reports, it's clear they do not have a handle on their operations. They cannot operate the facility safely. If you go nearby on almost any day, you will see a flare, you will see smoke. This is not economic development. This is absolute devastation pretending to be economic development. I think all of us in this room can agree that we want Cameron Parish, this unbelievably beautiful place. Is there any place like this in the state? Any place is beautiful? No. We can all agree that we want this place to thrive. Building this facility is not thriving. People are accepting it because there's nothing else. We're all victims of really pathetic economic development by the state of Louisiana. In this moment, the Department of Environmental Quality could actually stand up and protect all of us and make the way for something much better than this disastrous monster that can't even operate its plant. It's embarrassing for the oil and gas industry that this facility even exists. So you work for the Department of Environmental Quality. It'd be really great to have y'all for once stand up and protect the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. James Hyatt.
All right, good evening. My name is James Hyatt, P.O. Box 7262, Lake Charles, Louisiana. Thanks for having this hearing, and I'm glad there's an entire room of people. I've been coming to these hearings for 3 years now. Nobody gave a damn what happened in this place. Everything was rubber stamped somewhere else. We're here to talk about the air, and the situation is that just 3 years ago, we didn't have this plant operating right here. The thing that you can see, the flare, the black smoke, all of that pales in comparison to what you can't see. We've used optical gas imaging cameras to show the amount of emissions that are pouring out of that one facility that's already not operating well. And for the Department of Environmental Quality to continue to just hand out permits to industry players without actually the full scope. Is there any monitoring going on anywhere near us here in Cameron Parish that the DEQ does?
This is not a question.
I know, it's a rhetorical question.
Okay.
I got the answer. The answer is no. In Calcasieu Parish, how many monitors are there? There's 3. The modeling data that they want to use, they want to use from 60 miles away. When I hear people say that LNG has been good for Cameron Parish, I don't know what they see. We have the largest gas export terminal in the world at Sabine Pass. Cameron LNG, Calcasieu Pass right here. This parish should be the most wealthy parish in the country. But because there's no sales tax, so if you don't own an RV park or a store or a gas station, then all of those jobs that came through here didn't benefit the whole community whatsoever. It benefited the few who owned something that could sell or trade. The property taxes are almost $1 billion a year in property taxes that are exempted. At the same time, if you own property, which my family does have some property in Cameron Parish, you're paying for a hospital that's not here. In Grand Lake, they need a rec center. So they're going to raise their own property taxes when they have $1 billion a year sitting over here that's been taken away. How can the DEQ continue to allow facilities to submit incomplete applications to be rubber stamped by an overworked permit worker? It just doesn't make any sense. When the reality of what economic prosperity looks like and can be does not continue to exacerbate the entire cause of why people have had to flee Cameron to begin with, which is climate change and the continued dependency on fossil fuels, which causes that climate change. There's something to be said about the beauty of the marsh here. I've said this before. My mom was a public health nurse. For the first, 10 years of my life, we came to Cameron every day. It is beautiful. It is unaffordable if you need insurance. The system that is in place could be helping the community and the people that live here, but it does not. Instead, it continues to consolidate the wealth and power in the hands of those that already have wealth and power on the backs of all of us. The people who got up and spoke here, mostly for the company, are receiving some direct benefit, directly, from either buying or selling, or they're on the board of the Lions Club, or whatever the situation may be. The people who live in Cameron Parish deserve so much more than a turkey at Thanksgiving and half measures by companies that owe $1 billion a year in property taxes that are exempted. If they were such good neighbors, if the traffic didn't matter, if people could put up with what's going on right here, there would be more people living down here. They're not good neighbors. They don't clean up their mess. We already have a waterway that the DEQ has allowed to become polluted, and air that is very near the NAAQS standard in Calcasieu Parish. I think enough is enough, and the DEQ should deny this permit. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Lori Cook.
Hi, my name is Lori Cook, and I live, my address is Post Office Box 336, Sulphur, Louisiana. I'm not going to repeat a lot of the same stuff that people have said, but I wholeheartedly agree with what Mr. Allaire said about the violations. It's so frustrating when we expect the government to take care of, to enforce the law, and then it just doesn't happen. They just keep getting continuances and continuances. I totally agree with what Ms. Rolfes was saying about their track record and what this company has done to this area. But I just want to add something a little different because, that not a whole lot of other people have talked about. My grandfather, I've heard this my entire life. My grandfather worked for Shell Oil. He was born in Iowa, but he went to work for Shell Oil in the 30s when he was very young. My father worked for Conoco when he was very young and ended up retiring because my grandfather retired in the 70s, so he got a great pension, and that's why I was able to go to grad school, and that's really awesome. My dad left because Conoco became Sasol, actually, and there was a dramatic difference in how the employees were treated. This used to be a community back in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s when oil and gas came in. They took care of their employees, and you were able to raise a family and take care of your families. That's not so much the case now. What we have done is we've over-industrialized this area, and we've destroyed what we are destroying. I don't want to say it's destroyed, but we are destroying the shrimping industry, the fishing industry, the sportsman's paradise, where people come here and hunt, and they come here to visit, and they come here to see to bird watch and to see the nature. And the other thing I want to say is, when I went to graduate school, I studied political science, and I taught political science. So I've studied a lot about how, and I also was a journalism professor. And I know that people, and I hear the people who are in support of this, they seem to have the impression, and I understand that, government is about trust. And they're supposed to be able to believe the only way this system works, and if you look around with politics lately, it's obviously not working very well. And I think the main problem is people have lost trust in government. And I think this situation shows an example of why that is. We elect people to pass laws, and they are supposed to, the people who work for the government are supposed to enforce those laws. We trust, unfortunately, we used to be able to trust maybe, I don't know, maybe we were just naive. But to work, we have to be able to trust that the people we elect will put people in place who will enforce, set standards and enforce them. And that's the most mind-blowing thing about this whole situation. They're obviously not following the rules. They are not meeting the requirements. I know those requirements are there, but if they're not testing enough to really tell how much they're polluting, and if the LDEQ doesn't give them penalties, if I went out and did something, geez, I don't know what I could do, but if I speed, I expect that the police officer is gonna stop me and I'm gonna have to pay a fine. People expect that because that's how our system works. And if it stops working like that, then it's chaos. And that's all I wanted to say. But it's, I've been to Cameron. I've lived in Southwest Louisiana my entire life. I had an aunt and uncle who had a shrimp boat here, and I used to come, and I remember how Cameron was. And I also survived all the hurricanes up in Sulphur, where people down here survived them. And that fighting spirit, that rebuilding spirit from Audrey, because I had ancestors who, built back after Audrey, after Rita. The home I grew up in was destroyed in Rita. My house was damaged severely in Laura. We know that we need to do something, but destroying it with something other than a hurricane is not a solution. And I'm afraid this plant and this proposed expansion is going to destroy the air. It's going to further destroy the estuaries that make the seafood that we all love, and it's going to destroy the ship channel and make it just an industrial waterway and not the river that God intended it to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have Matt Rogers.
Thank you. My name is Matt Rogers. My address is 3191 West Lincoln Road in Lake Charles. I'm here representing the Shaw Group. We're an engineering and fabrication company with operations in Louisiana and Texas. I run the U.S. operations for the company. We have several facilities in Louisiana. Importantly for tonight's discussion, we have a pretty large facility on the south side of Lake Charles. It's a 300-acre facility with 450,000 square foot workshop that does work for principally the oil and gas industry and related sectors. And so we are doing work for Venture Global right now, and we obviously intend to solicit work from them in the future, particularly if this project goes forward. And so a facility of that size can obviously support a pretty significant headcount of easily 1,000 plus individuals working at the facility. That creates a significant direct and indirect economic benefit for the local community. If we're successful in our efforts to continue working with Venture Global, we would intend to further use that as a springboard to significantly expand the operations that we're doing out of that facility into the surrounding region, including in Cameron Parish. And so I'm joined here tonight by several of my colleagues, some of whom operate that facility and some of whom sell and manage projects that occur at that facility. And we are all very much in favor of the granting of this permit application. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, I don't have any other speakers right now, so Mr. Trudico, if you want to come forward and finish.
One of the issues that I have in my exhibit that I turned in is the carbon capture portion of air quality. According to my calculations, CP1 had promised that they were going to do carbon capture and sequestration in the Gulf of Mexico. They were going to be able to capture about 5%, still leaving 95% to go into the atmosphere. CP2 is no longer talking about the Gulf of Mexico, but it's still about 5%. Now, the question of direct air capture, there's a project Cypress proposed near Fenton. To give you some idea of the amount of greenhouse gases that CP1 or CP2 emit, it would take 28 Project Cypress facilities to offset CP2. 28 Project Cypress facilities. So this whole bullshit about carbon air capture and sequestration.
Did you say?
Yes, I did.
I will close this hearing if you use any more profanity, okay?
All right, and I'm not going to wear it.
And I'll ask the.
And I'm also not going to wear it. I'm also not going to wear a necktie. Now, if I can be allowed to continue.
You can continue as long as you don't refrain from profanity.
All right. There was an event today that I think I got it somewhere in here. Venture Global today, just this morning, released a revised and redacted emergency response plan for CP1. Now, we don't know what they redacted, but there were some very revealing things in this brand new emergency response plan for the existing facility, such that there are only 2 firemen paid in Cameron, and the shelter for evacuation is the school board building, which is less than half a mile from CP2. The sirens and flashing lights that are central to the alarm system can be seen and heard only a mile from the facility. And if the company can't control some emergency, they rely on the state police. Well, the state police, I've never seen a state police car in Cameron Parish. Their new plan says that the evacuation route recommends going through Port Sulphur. Last time I looked at Port Sulphur was way over there by the Mississippi River. So the slipshod way that they do these things is another indication of their disdain for details and for the law. The reason fire safety is a very important thing is that there is a gross underestimation of risk. The Flax model that they rely on has not been peer reviewed. It's secret. The world's experts cannot look at it. The same guy that did the Flax model that says that all these LNG things are safe, it's a conflict of interest on his part. He will not let people look at the model mathematics. So this whole idea of fire safety, the Coast Guard at least has recognized that there could be a 3-mile radius for a fire from one of the ships. Having a shelter less than a half a mile away from a facility like this, that's going to be a terrible tragedy. And the fact that, there was a study by the Lake Charles pilots said that they need 5 tugboats to handle these membrane-type ships. I saw one of those a while ago. It's docked. It's a membrane-type LNG tanker. The satellite pictures that I look at never show 5 tugs. Sometimes only 2 or 3. Now, I've talked to people at the Lake Charles Pilot's office and tried to get them the information that I have. And I certainly know that they have an incredible safety record after all these years. No accidents in the ship channel. That's admirable. But it just takes one with one of these ships. The assumption by the Coast Guard is that they've got 40 minutes to move an affected LNG tanker to a safe harbor so that it doesn't set off a cascading reaction at a terminal, like in Hackberry or here in Cameron. There is no safe harbor. I mean, where are they gonna tow something unless they can get it out past the jetties in a big hurry? There's gonna be an incredible cascading problem. You know, I've got all these different things, like what the fishermen have been talking about. That's part of what is ignored in the environmental assessment statement. National security issues. Venture Global and Hackberry have made Southwest Louisiana target land USA. Part of the justification for this proposed permit is to help the Ukrainians resist the Russians. Now, if that's one of the fundamental reasons for this particular facility, then the Russians have a good reason to send one squad over here and take out Venture Global CP1, Venture Global CP2, Hackberry, Chenier. People are not looking, you heard somebody talk about look at the big picture. People are not looking at the big picture. This place is in dire danger of thousands of people getting burned. Same in Hackberry. In Hackberry, the calculation was 400 households. I don't think there's that many here in Cameron because people left to go to high ground. But even if you just burn up 200 people, that's sad. That's just sad. Where I go to physical therapy, there's a lady that her house blew up in Longville. And she's in bad shape physically, and she has a wonderful attitude. She's an inspiration. But to see that lady with the scars and all of the different things that she has to go through, can you imagine if the people of Cameron, the ones that survived, have to go to physical therapy in her condition? It's a reality. It's a reality. I work with Dr. Jerry Havens. He's the world expert on fire safety. He's convinced that what we have here is extremely dangerous. He submitted to the federal people, to Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, an analysis. This wall that you heard talked about distributes the flood waters away from the plant. That wall, according to Dr. Havens' calculations, is going to exacerbate the overpressures, the blast effect. If the refrigerants, not the LNG, but if the refrigerants leak and catch fire and overpressure, they will do so much greater, with much greater force because there is a wall there, a storm surge wall, to enclose it. As far as overpressures being addressed in the stuff DEQ gave us to look at, I had to go through 1,200 and something pages to get to that topic because the company referred in the main DEQ document, the draft permit package, they had a footnote that said to see about overpressures, go to this other document. So I had to go through over 1,000 pages. When I got there, the sentence, I don't know where it is, but anyway, the sentence essentially said, they will provide that information in a later revision. Okay, now, is DEQ going to accept that a critical piece of information buried in over 1,000 pages finally comes out as, we'll give it to you later? We'll give it to you later. So does DEQ think that it can possibly legally issue this permit as written with all of the different things that are not right? Well, I guess you will, but it's not the right thing to do.
Thanks, sir. Okay, are there any other comments? Ms. Tritico, did you have any other exhibits besides the one you turned in already? No. Okay, thank you. Did you sign in?
I have not.
Need to do that. I tell you what, we're gonna take a 10-minute restroom break, and we'll let this young man speak as soon as we get through.
right, y'all ready to go back on the record? Everybody take their seat. We're going to finish up. If you don't want to chit chat, go outside. We're going to finish up. Okay. All right, Lucas Barrett. You ready? You ready?
Good afternoon. My name's Lucas Barrett. Until recently, I lived at 101 Boudreaux Lane in Cameron Parish. Recently, I moved to Moss Bluff. I still maintain a business and a 501c3 ministry here where I minister to 300 students, over 300 students that attend Cameron Parish schools. Just listening to everybody speak, I felt impressed to share my unique point of view. I don't have any direct connection to the project, although I spent roughly, I did some quick math, about 3,000 hours inside a CP1 as a field engineer, where I was both a member of the community who was employed by the facility, and what I witnessed while I was there, and unlike a lot of people here, I've had the privilege of being intimately familiar with Venture Global's internal processes. I've seen how they've handled incidents. I've watched them move millions of dollars of machinery and spend hundreds of man hours to go around a killbee nest. I've watched them take careful inventory of everything that could possibly spill and spare absolutely no expense or project cost. This has been a company, in my time with the project, I oversaw the jetty, boil-off gas, and several liquefaction units, all that were built with excellence. And I've worked in a lot of facilities. There's not all of them that I would want to be my neighbor. But I think that CP1 was definitely the cleanest, the safest, and the most well thought out facility that I've ever been a part of. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Philip Dyson.
I'm a local commercial fisherman here. I was coming in probably about 4 or 5 months ago out the Gulf, and I lost my smell with COVID. I can't hardly smell or taste nothing. And I was coming in, and my deckhand, I seen him fall on the deck of my shrimp boat. So I went back just to see what's going on. He's bleeding from the nose. He's passing the LNG plant. Something was it like getting in my nose? It might have been some kind of gas or something. He was bending over, blood running out of his nose. I went in there, I take my shirt and I dipped it in the ice chest and I give it to him. We finally get his nose to quit bleeding after about 5 or 10 minutes. We get to the dock, we get some help to cull the shrimp on the boat. And I was talking to a friend of mine, who used to work in one of these places. I ain't mentioned his name. And he told me what we probably smelled was benzene, which I don't know. I don't know what these gases are. I live about a half, 3/4 mile from this plant. When the motors turn on, they wake me up. All this traffic going back and forth, they're supposed to be so good for this town. They wake me up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Every morning. Not one morning, every morning. Racking the pipes. I stopped the cop the other day, Blake Abear, and I told him about it. He went down there, he sits down there every so often, I can stop and talk to him. Had one little car every morning, white Mustang. He would rack the pipes at the stop sign, right in my bedroom window. Every morning, motorcycles going to the plants, dually trucks with the straight pipes. Okay? Our estuaries, these big ships are tearing our estuaries up, running the commercial fishing life. I've been a commercial fisherman, I've been running boats for 50 years. Been running shrimp boats in Cameron Parish. And the last 4 or 5 years, our production went down. Well, they go build us a boat launch over here. We had a two boat launch. They built this boat launch over here, and they was about 10, 12 feet wide, maybe 12, 14 foot wide. My boat's 12 foot wide. I can barely get my boat in the boat launch. Okay? They took our boat launch and they built us this one. This RV park they got over there is for Venture Global. It's bull crap. We had an RV park down there at the jetties. They took our stuff. They took our boat launch. They took our RV park. I don't think Venture Global needs to own that. I don't think. My wife got cancer. My brother got cancer. A friend of mine lives next door to me got cancer. My sister-in-law died with cancer. My brother remarried. His other wife died with cancer in the same freaking house. Don't live 3/4 mile from Venture Global. Do I suppose for it? No, I don't want it. I'm just one fisherman. I don't see nothing good coming from that plant. How many years they give them? They give them 10 years tax-free at billions of dollars. Would help this town. And I heard the other day, I don't know if it's true or not, they talk about putting floating LNGs in our Gulf. 90 miles offshore. One off of Grand Chenier, one off Hollow Beach. It's bull crap. You ever been in a hurricane? I don't know if you have. I've been through every one on a shrimp boat. I damn sure want to be out on 200 miles offshore or 70 miles offshore on a floating platform. That ain't gonna happen. Gonna destroy the Gulf Coast. That's what you're gonna do. You seen BP? That ain't nothing. This is gonna be fire. The whole coastline's gonna be fire. Y'all better look into this. A friend of mine told me about this about 2 weeks ago. I'm against that too. You get a hurricane like Laura that blew 200 miles an hour, the federal government got out of that one. I was in it. I stayed up for 5 hours fighting a boat in reverse wide open. 5 freaking hours. It blew over 200 miles an hour. I don't need nobody to tell me what's gonna happen offshore. I was inshore. I don't think they need to put no floating platforms out there. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other comments? I would like to remind you that the comment period for the proposed initial Part 70 air operating permit and the prevention of significant deterioration PSD permit and the associated environmental assessment statement EAS for Venture Global CP2 LNG LLC CP2 LNG terminal ends at 4:30 p.m. Friday, March 7th, 2025. All comments and requests for notification of the final decision and the transcript from the hearing are processed by LDEQ Public Participation Group and will be made available on EDMS. Upon issuance or denial of the proposed permits, notification is mailed to all commentators, speakers, and those who requested to be notified of the final decision. The final decision notification includes information regarding the appeals process, the basis of decision, and the response to public comments. I have received a total of 3 exhibits. Let the time reflect. If there are no other comments, I would like to thank you for your attention to this participation in this hearing. Time is 7:40. Thank you very much.